No, I mean, they're an aggressive team on defense, so just wanted to create mismatches and get in situations where we can be successful, finding dunking. Appreciate you, big dog. Thank you. Go home. And put us in situations where we can be successful, find mismatches, things like that.
Speaking of Ben, you don't have a big guy in there. How does that change things in preparation? Obviously, Kel'el comes up big with his 19 and 17, but knowing you don't have him, does it kind of trickle down where everybody else has to do a little something extra?
I don't, maybe a little extra, but nothing too much. I think if we can still find a way to band together and all hit singles and come out and be solid and get the win.
You guys have been to these games where a team will push back. Sometimes you're not able to. So what was the key tonight in that pushback when they got it for you guys to take control?
I think we've just been doing a better job at taking other people's punch and, when we got to understand that they're going to go on runs. That's how basketball is. And, just get back to what we were doing that made us successful and can't get bored with doing the right stuff over and over again.
Kyle, you've only been playing with him for a couple months now, but what have you thought of the way Tyler's handled other teams throwing multiple bodies at him and pressuring him? He's getting off the ball, too.
Yeah, he's handled it really well. Just like you said, he's getting off the ball a lot earlier than when I first got here. I think, he's maybe trying to figure out a way to still be effective with the double. I think now he's getting off it, and other guys are playing well with the 4 and 3 behind him. And I always knew Tyler was good, but he's taken his game to another level this year, and it's fun to watch. It's super impressive. He's an all-star, and it's well deserved. He hasn't fallen off after All-Star break, none of that. So I'm impressed.
Well, obviously it's all relative, but you have a big game for play-in seeding coming up on Wednesday night in Chicago. Is this something where you put the records aside and just realize in the moment that there's something significant at stake with 3 games left in the season?
That's for you guys and the fans to have fun with. I'm gonna go into Chicago and prepare like I regularly do for a game against a good team, and try to get the win. There's nothing more to it.
Have you been paying attention to the playing standings, understanding you might get home games, you might not, where it might have to go?
Not really. Just go out there and obviously Spo talks about it, and I'm dialed in when he talks about it there. But you never know till the last game what's going to happen. So it's like, we got a big game versus Chicago. Let's go out there and prepare and try to play well, try to play hard.
Now, is it one of those deals where if the leg loosens up more as the game goes along, or was it just kind of like the same deal the whole way?
Yeah, it had some discomfort coming into it, but I warmed up. It's a little sore, but as the game kind of kept going, I feel like, it loosened up a little bit more, and then it feels good now, so I'll still be ready to go against Chicago, and just happy to be back, like I said, trying to play as many games as possible, so I just wanted to be out there.
Wednesday isn't a playoff game, but it's certainly going to feel like one. It will be a playoff feel for you guys as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. We know what's at stake, and you never know with these last couple games. Where we can end up in the standing, and I think that it would be much harder to win 2 games than to playing on the road if hopefully trying to get 1 at home. I think will help us.
On the night you don't have Bam, Kel'el goes out there, gets 19 and 17. What was so impressive about his night, what he was able to do, especially as a rookie in a big game like this?
Yeah, no, he played really well. Obviously, his activity on the glass and putbacks and catching lobs. I was joking with him, telling him he could have literally had 25 and 25 tonight. There were still a couple of rebounds he missed, but he's obviously continuing to get really good and much better every game.
They pushed back in that third, then in the fourth you guys had, I think it was like a 16-3 run. What was the key to kind of extending that lead and getting that cushion?
I think it started with our defense. Just getting stops, turning that into transition buckets on the other end, just getting out, turning defense into offense.
So I know this is where you've been this year, but shorthanded as you guys were a couple of years ago in your career, do you think you would have been more tempted to force up 20-plus shots?
Maybe. But I don't know. The game comes pretty easy to me right now, so it's picking my spots, when to be aggressive and when not to.
Spo was also talking about with Kel'el that he could have 20 rebounds, like on a big night that he has, that he wants to even shoot for more. What do you think that says about him at this young age?
I mean, we don't know what the limit is. That's why we're on him so hard. He's obviously going to be really, really good in this league, so we're on him, hard every day. No matter what, no matter how good he plays, we're still on him.
How vital has become what Anderson and Davion are giving you every night off the bench?
Yeah, huge. You know, obviously Davion, he's a menace on defense, but really offensively he's bringing, you know, a dynamic that we haven't had, just speed and transition, getting the ball out, getting it up the floor. And then Kyle, obviously, he's able to do everything, you know, bring the ball up, make plays, you know, finish at the rim, doing a bunch of different really good things for us.
Kel'el Spo mentioned that you thought that maybe you could have got up to maybe 20 rebounds this game, but can you just kind of sort of talk about maybe why you thought that way and just your performance as a whole tonight?
I mean, I'm a rebounder, you know, in itself. You know, I pride myself on that. You know, just trying to go grab everyone. Some of them slipped away, I guess you could say, but yeah, it was possible for me to get 20, or if not more. But
Kel'el, in terms of, I know it's about winning, but in terms of your own development on nights like this without Bam, how does that change what you need to do and the way you're thinking about your role on the team?
I mean, yeah, no, you just, you know, without Bam, you know, we're going to need, you know, somebody to step up, need, you know, more of a scorer out there. And, you know, like I said in the other interview, somebody got to put up the shot. So, you know, why not?
Kel'el, it seemed like throughout the game you just became more aggressive and you were just trying to put people on posters compared to the beginning of the game. What was that aggressiveness that you kind of like had where like there was even one where you tried to seem like dunk halfway through the paint?
I was able to do it. I mean, that was really it. You know, once I tried to do it the first time, I was like, okay, I can just, you know, 'cause I mean, you know, once a defender see you getting ready to jump like that, either they're going to move out the way or it's going to most likely be a foul. So, you know, you keep trying to do that.
Kel'el, I don't know how much you've been following the play-in race, but Wednesday in Chicago could be a big deal, maybe give you a home game in the play-in. Is that something you've sort of been looking at, and what do you think that's going to feel like to play with 3 games left in the season, a game with meaning like that?
I mean, yeah, you know, it's always good, especially, you know, to get that. This is my first season doing this, of course, but, you know, to get that home game for the first one, you know, it'll help, you know, help the whole team, you know, just with more confidence, you know, going into the next game. So you got to take every game serious and try to get the wins. You know, Spo say, you know, 4 up, 4 down. You know, you got to stick together. So. All right, appreciate it.
The fourth quarter pretty much went the way you would want it on both ends. How important is that for you to get on the plane tomorrow?
Yeah, we really had to work the game, and then, you know, it happened. You know, we just working the game, and go into the fourth tied, and had our best defensive quarter that led us, you know, into some great energy going down the other end, and you know, it was an offensive explosion, you know, as well, a mini explosion. But that was great to see us respond that way in the fourth.
The 19 and 17 for Kel'el obviously stands out, but what pleases you in general about his growth, his steadiness over recent weeks and games?
Well, you can trust him, you know, to compete and to try to do the right things. He's a glass eater, you know, that for sure. You know, he finds his way, you know, around the basket too for, you know, these really important relief points, you know, for us. He's gaining confidence. Today, I thought he did a real good job of facilitating also for us. Not only screen setting, but, you know, when he had his catches in a similar place where Bam was, he was able to deliver the action reliably. And that helps, you know, our versatility offensively. I told him it would have been, you know, he brought us in, and the first thing he said to me is that I think I could have had 20-plus rebounds in this game. I said, well, that would have been great. I think 19 points, 19 rebounds, and 9 block shots. I think he had an opportunity, and I told him that. He could have had a few more blocks right at the rim. They were getting there past our first line of defense, and he has good instincts there. That would have been, if I were to nitpick, you know, how many did he end up with? How many blocks, Tim? Oh, yeah, 8 more blocks in this game. I think he would have had that opportunity.
We've been asking about Tyler kind of handling and absorbing pressure over the past 2 months or so, but is it different to have him so willing to get everybody else involved and take that pressure at night with no Bam, no Wiggs, when you might need to be?
Yeah, his maturity, you know, offensively, and his role for our team has grown, you know, the last couple of months. And that's due to all of these pressure situations that we've been in where everything just feels heightened. And where we had injuries and he had to play a different way for us to be successful. We were just going to high usage him, with spread pick and rolls. He would have been totally worn out. So it was a function of necessity, getting him off the ball, and then he became really good at it. And most importantly, it helped our offense. And it helped the diversity of our offense, and then he was able to get some easier buckets out of that. I mean, one of the easiest buckets he had tonight was a Kyle pick and roll, and he skipped it to him in the corner. And now he makes this look easy for somebody else trying to shoot that, two dribble pull up. It'd be a lot tougher, but that was just, fully in his rhythm, and that's off ball, being ready on the catch, those kind of actions that, he's just more patient. He's allowing the game, happen, and his skill set can just, take advantage of those situations.
When Duncan was out with the back, I imagine because it was a back, he couldn't do a whole lot of on-court stuff. But the fact that he still can be ignitable, as you would say, and
Yeah.
21 on 8 shots,
He'll always have that quality. That's what makes him a little bit different too than just a spacer or a guy. He can create a lot of overreactions because of his movement, but it's always been about his ignitability. If he sees 2 or 3 go down, then it can be an avalanche from there. Even when he was out and while we were on that last road trip, though, he was able to do a good deal of work. So that helped.
How crucial is it in this sort of time of the season to get guys that in sort of this collective effort where 6 are scoring in double digits and others are just filling out the stat sheet?
Are you talking about for us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been playing that way for a while, quite a while. Especially guys in and out of the lineup. Every time we've had guys out of the lineup, it hasn't felt like somebody's had thought that they needed to play out of the box. Just hoist up a bunch more shots or something like that. It's been a collective effort, and I think that's making us way more difficult to guard. There's a lot of different layers to what we do now.
Erik, when you look ahead to Wednesday, it's all relative, but just the actual thought of having a meaningful game with 3 games left to go in the season, just your thoughts of having that.
I think it's a lot of fun. And nobody in our locker room is cynical enough, to think otherwise. You look at what's going on in the Western Conference, 4 through 8. This is what the league is right now. So you're not above it. Just embrace it and enjoy it. This is going to be a great night. It's all about competition, and it's going to feel like a playoff game, and that's fun.
Coach, I know you touched on this before, but with Kyle Anderson playing the 7th most minutes and still finishing with the 2nd best box plus minus and being able to impact the stat sheet, how is it to have that type of guy in the closing stretch of these games before the play-in?
Yeah, I can make some comparisons, but he's just a really smart basketball player. And he can manipulate a game, because of his brain and, how he plays at that certain pace. But I think one of the things that I've learned about him that's equally as important is he is a great competitor. Winning is what matters to him, not stats or not anything else that a lot of young players are concerned about when they come into this league. It's just about winning. He's a throwback in that regard. So he's tough. He competes. He thinks about winning, and it kind of simplifies his decisions. He's not clouded in the mind, but he's just a very good basketball player.
Kel'el Ware was making his way down to you with about 5 seconds left, and you guys had the moment.
Yeah.
How nice is it that you can have those with guys in the league?
Yeah, I always, I understand how it ended with Kyle, but, there's some really good moments, and Kyle and I developed a strong relationship, and that was going back all the way to that Africa trip. So we have a bond that's going to transcend, this. And he lives down here. So, actually we caught up for a while after the game in Philly. We're going to be traveling in the same circles, because of his kids and everything. And I always root for him and his family. He's just a good dude. All right, thank you.